the worst thing that probably we have been taught as growing up, and I don't know if it's our generation or even the younger generation, is follow your dreams, do what you love. I think it's an amazing slogan for a T-shirt. I think it's the worst advice you can give a young person building his career for the world, and preparing and having the right tools.
Hi folks, James here, and welcome to the Spiro Circle, this time in collaboration with Forbes Israel. Everyone is becoming a business owner in 2026. You may not realize it, but fewer and fewer people are joining traditional workforces, and they are venturing out to pursue their own careers, their own companies, and their own interests. Heck, I'm one of them, right? The Spiro Circle started as a hobby, but now it's one of my businesses that I run as an independent writer and journalist and creator. Anyway, this week I spoke to Tom Lahat, the co-founder and CXO at Tailor Brands. Tailor Brands helps individuals set up businesses, whether it's in blue-collar positions or marketing and branding and writing careers. They basically help someone set up LLCs or corporations, and basically the infrastructure that they need to tackle things like compliance, taxes, legislation, paperwork, all of the things that kind of drive you crazy when you start a business. So we spoke about the changing workforce, and we spoke about some of the landscape, but then we also spoke about AI, job displacement, what our kids and the next generation of workforce are going to need to know going into their first jobs. AI really is everywhere, and there's a whole generation of kids that don't really know what the workforce looks like. You also have managers and founders of older companies not really understanding how it's all going to take shape. So we spoke about all of this in a really interesting and forward-facing conversation. I really hope you enjoy. Tom, thank you so much for taking the time. I'm super interested in a bunch of the different things that you folks are doing and some of the ways that you're helping the workforce and what it means to start a business in the times today. So before we get going, what are you seeing in 2026 from a kind of macro point of view about what the business, entrepreneurship, establishment looks like?
Of course, I think that the most interesting thing that the current time that we're living is that so many of the definitions that we use, that we grew on, and it used to be such a clear paths are changing. So the concept of what is a business owner, right? I think our parents, for example, they had this image of, I go to my bakery and I run my business, and we still obviously have this. And then when we grew up, we had this gig economy, right? Like I can do a few things as my main business. And today with AI and job displacements, everything is basically changing. Again, there's another layer of people who are not opening a business because that's their dream. We still have them, but suddenly we have also a lot of people who are opening a business out of necessity. Suddenly getting a job is not as clear or easy as they thought it would be. Suddenly their profession is not as needed as they thought it would be. And we see it all those different patterns. People starting business because they have to. People are starting business because they want to fill a 2 years gap on their CV before they join another company. So we have this mixture in these days that everything is changing. We have everything from the baker to the freelancer to the one with 5 different jobs, LLCs, different companies throughout the week. The weekend warrior. It's fascinating time to open a business.
I love that, the weekend warrior. I love that expression. And you're right, because a lot of the framing of this conversation, at least, I mean, we'll see how it goes and we'll see where we dive into. But the premise that I'm kind of going into talking to you today is that kind of the idea when we were growing up, and maybe a bit before us as well, maybe when our parents were growing up, the idea was always that getting a job and entering into a company and working your way up was the safe and responsible thing to do, right? And it was always the entrepreneurs who were the mavericks. It was always the college dropouts or those that wanted a dream big and start something new, those were seen as the risk takers. And the premise of today's call and kind of some of the things that you folks are doing is you're kind of demonstrating that the inverse is true, in that actually one of the things that we spoke about before this call was that you said that, you said that it's kind of safer to start your own business nowadays. And as some of the things you mentioned with job displacement, excuse me, and the threats that AI is posing, and we're seeing it in the tech world, we're seeing all of these layoffs and all of this refiguring. Talk me through exactly what Tailor Brands does from start to finish, and what you folks are doing in that ecosystem of helping people start their own business. So let's give the viewer a bit of an understanding of what you folks do, and then we'll kind of take it all in different directions.
Of course. So let's start with Google definition. Basically, that Tailor Brand is a business builder. We help people to start their business. We analyze their needs, and then we know exactly how to form it the right way. So it's the LLC and the paperwork and the bureaucracy and the EIN and the registered agent, all of the things that you must have when you start a business. Doesn't matter which business. We do it. We do it in a way that I will say, I think our users will agree as well, in a delightful way. So we take the scary part, the bureaucracy, the things you don't want to handle but have to, that suddenly can take 40, 50, 60% of your time instead of managing your business. And we do it for you, whether it's the finance part or the bureaucracy or the legal or the insurances or the permits. We build platform that basically links into all the different government organizations, from the IRS to the state, to your local county, and we do the work for you. I think that's our premise, and that's why we have the privilege of just working with a lot of inspiring business owners, to be honest.
And so talk to me through about who those folks are, right? Who are the people that are setting up their own businesses? It's an exciting opportunity, and someone speaking personally, right? Someone who I recently didn't start my own business, but I recently went independent. So are you working with folks who are independent and then starting a business out of their independent working, or what is it in the physical world or the digital world? Like, talk me through who those people are.
Correct. That's a great question. So the first thing that I would say about our users, that the kind of business varies, right? It can be a plumber, it could be a financial advisor, it could be a yoga instructor. The thing that is common that brings all of them together would be that it's their first business. Usually, our platform is customized for the people who are just starting. Most of them are service providers. That's a big thing about our platform. We're targeted, and we have a great service suite for them. And that's the beginning of their journey. And we see them growing with us. So they find us at the early stage.
I guess it's the point where they want to, maybe they're doing freelance or odd jobs or, whatever it is.
I think it could be, a lot of the users already have an experience with the things they have been doing.
Exactly, right. That's what I'm saying. So they want to kind of solidify it, and they want to turn it into a proper infrastructure, and just the level of, as you mentioned,
that's one type of the users, and that's the best case. That's the case that I know what I'm doing. I've been doing it for a while now, and I want to take the next step now. And as we took it, and as we said at the beginning of the call, we now have people who are, okay, I need to start a business. I need to find the proper way to make an income, because I realized that the plans I had changed. And then they come to us basically on the same time, on the same moment where they did some research, and they're, okay, I'm going now into gardening. Gardening for me is a way to make a living. I'm going to do a course, and then I'm going to do it. But it wasn't the thing that they planned from, day one. And that's the interesting thing. And that's why that's the privilege that we have, that we can help a lot of different needs of people to become the business owner.
So you've mentioned that the way that this operates, and the ways that you folks are helping these workers reestablish themselves, you kind of described it as the gig economy on steroids.
Yeah.
So talk me through what you meant by that.
Okay, so we have, and I think the data that we have on the business owners world is fascinating because we can learn a lot of things. One of the things that we notice, and we saw the difference from I think 3 or 4 years ago to now, that a business owner would have 4 or 5 LLCs in their system, and that's something that really changed. And when we started asking our users what's happening here, we can already see, based on the name of the LLC, that every business is completely different. So our users tell us that they have Monday to Friday job, basically. And then over Saturday and Sunday, they do something else. So they open another LLC. And then they saw an opportunity to work as an advisor, and they had to open another LLC because they needed different permits for that. And that's completely different from the world that we had, I would say, before AI became, whether it's the best thing that happened or the worst thing that happened. I think we're going to discover it in the upcoming years. But one thing we know that a lot of the companies and a lot of the titles, they were the safe bet, whether it's the developers that are, super senior positions, are being let go.
Yeah, no, it's and that's what we're seeing, and you're right, because it sounds like it's kind of people taking control over their jobs and their careers and also kind of their livelihoods. So one of the concepts that is interesting about this kind of work that you help people do is, like you said, it's the kind of the blue collar service industry folks that are out there in the physical world, like you said, whether it's like gardening or construction or other things. It kind of reminds me a bit of what Scott Galloway wrote about in his book, The Algebra of Wealth. And I'm not promoting this. I'm not getting paid to promote it. I'm a huge fan of the book. He says, don't follow your passion, follow your talent, right? It's like the concept of if you're a kid leaving school, you want to figure out what you want to do, or where your interests lie or where your talent lies. His advice is to follow the talent and what you're good at. And that could be laying bricks, or it could be writing, or it could be songwriting, whatever. But it's not necessarily the talent, not necessarily the passion, but the talent. What would you say? How would you say that concept fits into Tailor Brands and what you folks set to help people out to do?
So I think one of the biggest changes is, that we see, is that what was desired, the job that was desired 5 years ago, today is not the most. Nothing is certain. So, right. So being a developer was the best thing you could be, right? You can go to Meta or to Amazon or to Google, and basically you had a safe path. That thing changed. And what we suddenly see, and we see it also from our data, that first of all, there's a rise in blue collar jobs. So we see basically these are the things that AI won't change, right? We have a plumber. I had a super interesting conversation with one of our users that he lays basically metal work in constructions. And he told me he's from, I think, North Carolina. And growing up, his father really pushed him to that direction. And as a teenager, and even in his 20s, now in his late 30s, he was really mad that's the skill that he had. Like, right, he works with his hand. He has a tough job, but he saw in the last 3 years that laying that foundation, laying metal in construction work, has seen an increase of 15% in the paycheck every year. And that's suddenly he's living better life. And the reason that happens is there's a need for blue collar jobs, whether it's plumbing, construction, or electricity. All of these titles, all of these jobs suddenly see increase in demand, which leads to an increase in the paycheck.
Yeah, I mean, that's literally the idea that Galloway gives as well, is smelting, right? That's one of the famous things he says. He goes, don't try to be a rock star, get very good at smelting, and then you'll kind of be the guy in the town that knows how to do the thing that people need. It's like that episode of South Park where all of the like you said, the plumbers, electricians, they're the ones that are becoming like the successful guys in town, because those who
the worst thing the worst thing that probably we have been taught as growing up, and I don't know if it's our generation or even the younger generation, is follow your dreams, do what you love. I think it's an amazing slogan for a T-shirt. I think it's the worst advice you can give a young person building his career for the world, and preparing and having the right tools, because suddenly you find yourself at 30, or 40, where the job market is hard as it is, and maybe it will be better, but 10 years, and we always have these circles in the economy. But what do you have? And that's why, no, I don't think, maybe there are people who were, their dream was to be a plumber, maybe. But I would say that a lot of the users that we talk to who are now working in plumbing, they have a great quality of life. And I think that's the goal. The goal is to have a great quality of life and having the choice to say, okay, I'm going to work today my ass off, but tomorrow I'm going to spend more time with my family. Or tomorrow I'm going to be a weekend warrior, by the way, and I'm going to work on another project. Maybe it's a podcast. Maybe it's a book I'm writing. Maybe it's something else I want to do. But you want to get to the point in life that you have the possibility to choose.
How do you have data that can outline how many people are engaging in this kind of new age workforce at the moment, these weekend warriors, or those who are starting their own businesses? You mentioned, most of your users are first-time business creators.
So
What
I can
can you
tell
tell me
you,
about some of the numbers behind some of that thesis?
it's very hard to see the numbers of the public data on people who have few companies is like, you can see it, but in our in the data that we have, you can see the change from 5%, from maybe 8% from 4 years ago, to what is now almost 30 or 40% within
Wow.
50. So it could be, by the way, people that started a company, the company didn't work out, and they just made another one. That's also a big chunk of the users. But it's also, as I said, every company has different needs, different permits, different licenses. So it's so easy to do that with our platform. So they do that, and then they can start and check if that's a great way to generate revenue, if that's a great way to create a new career path, if that's a way of life they want to live.
Mm.
So it's not that, and that's a big part of the way we live today. The choice that they do is not forever. I'm going to start my company. I'm going to try it out. I'm going to see if it develops me as a person, if it generates the revenue I want to have, so I could live the quality of life of the that I'm aiming. And if it doesn't work, I'll change it. I'll do something else. In opposed to, by the way, our parents, again, like, this is where I'm going to start my job in, and this is where I'm going to die.
Yeah. Well, the idea as well was like, certainly what I was kind of told growing up was that you get a job, and it's kind of like, the longer, anywhere, you get a job in any office, any industry, whatever. And it was kind of like, the longer you spend at the job, the better it was, regardless of promotion or salary change or development or anything like that. The guy or woman, the person who retired after 30 years of good work at the company, like, that kind of person doesn't really exist anymore. And there was a phase among kind of millennials and kind of our age group, where people would job hop every 2 or 3 years, right? And then that kind of became the norm. Which, so the work, what I'm trying to say is, the workforce is also always changing. What are young people who are 18, 19, 20, either at university or not university, their early days in the workforce, and they're seeing their jobs just get like removed by AI, right?
Right.
Like, Anthropic does one product update and a company goes under, or an industry changes. What are those kids learning or thinking? Like, is this gig economy on steroids? Is this more of a necessity, or is it a way for people to truly tap into their talents?
By the way, it's a big question, and I think if I had the right answer, I would tell it to my kids. But we talked a bit earlier, and Scott Galloway, by the way, touches this topic as well. That 10 years ago, if my kids would ask me, what should I do and grow up, I would basically give them a few options that would translate into great way of living. Whether it's be a developer or find a way into the tech industry. And now, every day you open the news and you see that Meta lays off 30,000 people and Amazon fires 15,000 people. And the people that they are firing are from all departments. They are the developers, the backend, the analysts, And as you said, every morning you read the new Google or Anthropic update, and you're like, holy shit, who's gonna get it now? Um,
Right.
and and we can see it in it's probably the most common thing we can talk about, but you can see it in the SaaS. All the biggest companies who are full of talented people and have great services and they're generating a lot of revenue are suddenly losing 30-40% of their um, of their valuation in the public market because people have no idea how will people work. So whether it's Monday or Wix or any company out there basically is now being, I think the market is basically standing aside and trying to understand how will it be. So if you would ask me what are the best tools for today for the next years, I don't know. But the thing I am certain of, and that's why Tailor Brands is here for that you would probably have better chance of creating a successful and even with more confidence career having your own thing.
Hmm. Yeah. I agree with that because I think that you can't really, as someone who's done both of it, right? You can't really match or mirror that level of like enthusiasm, but also kind of like weight. Like it's on your shoulders a lot more when it's your own thing, and it weighs on you more for better or for worse, right? There's also
Yeah, but I
tremendous
think the
concern
last
with
thing
that.
I want anyone to think that I would say that having your own business is easy. No, having your own
Right? Yeah.
business is probably the toughest thing I did in my life. And I have a 3-year-old, a 3 months old, and year and a half. And still
Wow.
managing the business and not and losing sleep and being stressed and whether if you have co-founders or not, it's the most rewarding and the most complicated thing one can experience. But again, the notion of what is a business is changing, and that's what's exciting. A business
Yeah.
isn't necessarily a company with 30 people. It could be you sitting in front of your computer giving lectures. It could be you creating content. It could be you writing now code for people. If maybe code wasn't something that you felt comfortable with, in the next few years, it will be something extremely accessible. Um, Great.
Yeah, no, I mean, I want to kind of build on that as well and touch on it because we mentioned the kids. It seems a bit patronizing to call them kids, but the late teens, early 20s who are joining the workforce in a very different world. They're also a post-pandemic generation, right? So they were high school kids in the pandemic, and now they're entering the workforce in this AI
I
era.
think it's
So
a
they've,
miracle they could read. I think it's a
yeah,
miracle that
they've had
people
a they've had a
went through COVID, and then the wars and everything that's happening. I think it's a miracle that they actually
yeah.
can communicate with people.
They've had a tough ride, for sure, like for sure. But you and I have just mentioned now. You have young kids. I have a young kid. It's still going to be a couple of years. Like they're still years and years away, like kind of almost a generation away to entering the workforce. So, uh, not as a founder and not as an industry viewer, not as any of that. Just as a dad, as a parent, what are you making sure? And I'm asking as a host and for genuine advice as well. What are you going to be teaching your children? What values or skills or abilities are you going to be teaching your children to best prepare them for either a world of kind of solo entrepreneurship business or AI job markets or big
Mhm.
businesses that are undergoing digital transformation? What are you going to be instilling in them?
I think the number one thing that I would probably, and I'll give the word, and then I'll break it down. It's being curious, but not in a way that like, be curious about the world, go travel Paris. No, it's like be really curious about the new technology because things are changing so fast. There isn't a university, there isn't a course, there isn't a YouTube yet because version 1 was yesterday and today version 2 is already up and it's different. So the best tool that I can give my kids or the advice is how to self-learn. That's 100% that. And as I said, I don't know yet if AI is the best thing or worst thing that happened to humankind, but currently it's the best thing that happened to me when I try to learn a new thing. So suddenly I can create my own podcast about a topic. I can create my own videos and learn how to do, whether it's live coding or create music that I couldn't do. I think in this current stage of AI, it's extremely exciting. Again, in 10 years, maybe we'll be in the middle of the AI war and we'll be fighting each other. But currently, and I try to keep up, and people are sometimes the flow of information is so overwhelming that people will say, I'm just gonna wait outside. I'm gonna wait aside and let it happen. But we see the opportunities every day. You have a different opportunity of a new service that is starting, whether it's in the music or the code or the design or the video, um, and you got to learn it yourself.
Yeah, that's definitely something that I value as something that I would want to instill in someone, that I would maintain and want to instill in someone else, which is, as you mentioned, curiosity, just wanting to know more. It also, that that can be like a human trait, but that's also a technical thing to learn, because we're
That's
spending
what I'm
all day
saying.
typing into LLMs. You need to know what to ask. You need to be able to question or articulate what you want the LLM to give back to you. So that's a skill in itself. I know people that were undergoing like prompt engineering training. you know they'd hire humans to help them learn how to better prompt. I would
And
also argue traits like public speaking, or even what we're doing now, looking straight into a camera and speaking full sentences, is valuable, because so many people are going to be hiding behind screens or texts. It's you can't even begin to think about what. Also, to change a tire is also important in the car.
I,
In the
I
real
think that
world.
I think when I say the umbrella term of curiosity, I think that you have a few layers. First layer, as I said, is how to learn yourself in front of a computer or whatever we would have in the future. I think curious about people. I think people that we take it for granted, but the ability to talk to another human being, have a great conversation and generating new ideas and even teaming up and creating something together. I think that's a necessity in the world. I think people romanticize the concept of a genius sitting alone in the basement, having this aha moment and creating the next Google. Obviously, there are, right. There's like the 1%, but having the ability to work in a team, and I see it. I have younger siblings, 15 and 12. Um, it's something that the younger generation needs to put more effort to know how to do it in the best way. As we said, we have a generation that for the last 4 years, basically, not the last year, like during COVID, was in a room and was told that the only way you can communicate with people is through Zoom. And if somebody else comes into your house, he can kill you because he has a disease. So this notion of creating this skill, the skill set of creating something together is a part of the curiosity. And I think it would be the most needed skill.
Mm. Yeah, that's so interesting you say that, because it's like you sent my mind in a place where it's like collaboration nowadays, whereas collaboration was like sitting in a room or sitting at a table and like butting heads together to think of a solution. Now collaboration can be just copying and pasting some link and
I
sending
know.
it to someone over a chat, and then they take a look and send it back.
It's not even,
Um,
and no, that was years ago. Now, a lot of my conversations, I'm sure a lot of your conversation as well, are being conducted with an AI. I
mm,
am talking to it not as Google, hey, find me, let's talk about the situation in the Middle East. It's a full on conversation, back and forth, getting reviews, getting comments, changing what I think about a topic through a conversation I have with an AI. And that's something that it's unthinkable. That that was basically the last thing that we had. Um, the tech didn't change. The ability for you and me to talk and for you to say, "What? That's something I didn't think about," or "You know what, James, that's a great idea. Let's do it together," or "I'm gonna break it down and get back to you." People are working with different. I have a friend that says that I don't like to work with OpenAI. I prefer Gemini. Like there's already human traits to different. No, like, I have a great friend that he only works with the Chinese one. What's the name?
DeepSeek.
Not deep sync, exactly. So people, it's like saying I don't like to talk to John. I think his ideas are very limited. I prefer talking to Michelle. She has a very broad sense of the topic.
Wow.
I can, like, the company I started and the company that a lot of Like I couldn't imagine doing it alone. I couldn't imagine thinking, just even if you're a sole founder of a company or starting your own business, just the back and forth you can do with someone. And there's obviously a great opportunity here for a lot of people who, and a lot of our users who are the first in their family, the first in their neighborhood, and they don't have an access for a friend to ask him, hey, when you open your business, what was the challenge? And the good thing people are doing, and I admire that, it's they're having these conversations with AI. So they're coming way more prepared. I have people who are testing their business models. They're testing their initial ideas, the initial assumptions on the market, on how much they should charge with LLM. And then they're getting to their first day so much prepared than any business owners in any business owner in the planet.
Ironically, as well, a lot of the companies or professions or industries that Tailor Brands is helping are those real world human to human interactions, because it's not taking. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm speaking broadly here, but a lot of the people and a lot of the companies are operating,
Locally,
kind of in a barter, right? It's like face to face, shaking hands. Product or service is taking place in real
that's what
time in real
the core of our
place.
users, the core of our users, and they have, and when we ask them how did you find your first customer, it was basically from meeting him or her in a social or a community event or posting. It's the most basic things. Obviously, everyone are doing social ads, and that's great. You have to do it, obviously. But when we talk about the first 5 to 10 customers, it's crazy to think about it, but it's putting their business cards in local area, in local events or bars or restaurants or shops. It's putting flyers. It's the crazy thing I think with AI and the world we're living is that we're going back to the basics, the things that work. Whether it's people are now conducting tests, not through the different education systems are not allowing students to do it over the computer because obviously as a student I have all the LLMs open, so people are now conducting tests in class,
Wow,
writing down.
archaic.
Yeah, okay, but working, and so we're so it
Yeah.
worked. How can I know that my student isn't cheating? I can see him.
It's funny you mentioned about the business cards and finding the customers, because there's a few things that I want to say to that. One is that what people really value word of mouth and recommendations. So if I say to you, Tom, I know a great guy, he can fix the whatever it is, you're more likely to take my word for it than a random advert in the yellow pages or online. And that's true of all human nature for anything ever. We always go on recommendations. The second thing I would say is that I'm probably the only person my age at the moment that I've experienced where when I go to the places you mentioned, the social arrangements or the conferences or the work events or whatever, I'm throwing away my card. I got 250 cards made. I throw them away. I leave them at the coffee station. I leave them on the desks. I leave them wherever. And I find it really annoying when someone's like, oh, let's stay in touch. And they want to tap my phone to their phone. And now their contact is in my phone. But it's a human nature. Of course, I've already forgotten their name, because that's what happens when you speak to someone and your name, your brain blanks. So for me, there was real value in like seeing the card, like, okay, who did I speak to? What's the logo? What's the name? And meet and seeing them. Now I'm scrolling through my phone, thinking like, where was this person that I just?
Yeah, what was her name? What is his name? But
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. What was the name? What was the
that's why,
company?
that's why we talked about the social tokens, the social coin of me describing what I do, um, and trying to create the impression that I am a serious business owner, so you can hire my services is the number one trait that you need. Because okay, you can do great ads, but you gotta find your first customer. You got to find him. You got to find confidence in what you do. And it would be usually like 100% of the first customer of the business is word to mouth, is family and friends. So you
Right.
would, doesn't matter if I'm conducting constructions, if I'm building your website, if I'm taking photos of your wedding. The first thing anyone does is, I want to meet you. I want to meet you. I would be happy to know more about you. And the story is not as important as the notion I'm getting from you. What am I learning about you? How are you describing yourself? How are you depicting the services that you give? Are you ensuring me? Are you giving me the confidence that you are a worthy someone I can trust? And these are the things business owners need.
there's also such a respect for the trade as well, I find, that, and we're kind of romanticizing it now, but this is kind of what's so charming about it, is that, I can build flat pack furniture, and I like to think that I'm quite proud of that. And it's something that I think is important and something that I would want my children to know, and I think everyone should know. But we recently moved house and we had to kind of furnish the whole place. So we had some people come in and help us with it, because otherwise it would have taken me like weeks to do. And we needed somewhere to put I needed somewhere to sit and have dinner. So this gentleman came in, or a group of people came in, and there was just such an art to the way that he would like build these furnitures and these crafts. It's like really quite beautiful. And like, it's the same as, like, as you mentioned, like the wedding photography, or it's the construction, or it's this, there's like an appreciation for like the
People who are good at what they do, by the way. And
yeah.
and one of the skills that we're losing as well, like I said, I think you and I were talking about the younger generation, but we're fucked as well, obviously. I mean, there's a great interview with Elon Musk, and she's asking him, "What's the one technology that you would say that brought humankind backwards?" And I'm like, "Oh, that will be a great answer." And his answer was short form videos, and it has
Right.
the same effect on me. The ability for me to focus on one topic more than a few minutes, I'm losing it. I saw a great article that the title was "The End of the Reading of Writing." I mean, because what happens is I ask an LLM to write me a cover letter, and then I send the cover letter to this company I want to work in. The guy who's supposed to read the cover letter is not reading the cover letter. He's asking the LLM to summarize and read it out to him. So basically, we have here this world where nobody's writing anything. LLMs are writing stuff for other LLMs to make it shorter and more concise. And basically, we're losing that ability to describe things, to write, to convey our emotions.
As a writer myself, I find that terrifying. I find it terrifying to think that no one's reading my work, and I find it terrifying to think that my work is being used to summarize bullet points. And these things tend to go in circles, right? So what happened was, I know that X now is creating this exact thing, right? Ways to summarize long form posts on X as bullet points. But like, I feel like we're going crazy, because X used to be Twitter, which was short bullet points. Now people are using ChatGPT to write these really long posts on X, but now people are using AI to summarize those posts into short form tweets. So we've kind of like innovated ourselves into a circle.
And that's why people appreciate more authenticity, and they want to see and they want to talk to the person, because you can write something. I mean, unfortunately, writing is a craft, and writing something good is, it's a skill that not a lot of people have. But who's reading it? Who's going to read this amazing article, this amazing book, or this amazing business proposal if the business proposal is longer than 5 points?
Look, we're having a great conversation now, right? And I'm enjoying it. And I like to think that it's a skill that you and I both possess, that we can have a conversation like this. But we both know that the most watched parts of this conversation is going to be in these smaller social media snippets that I'm going to cut afterwards. What do we say? What's the future there? Because I think it's so important to read a book, or even to make it even simpler, right? Watch a movie. I think the brain works on a different way. And recently I've even, like, ironically stopped listening to podcasts, and I'll do an audiobook. And the reason I do an audiobook is because that's not a 45-minute conversation. That's like a 8-hour, 10-hour thing that I'm doing for days or weeks on end. So there's a value, obviously, in long form content, whether it's listened or spoken or written or read or whatever. If everyone's doing what you and I both believe to be happening, what
So I'll say, I want to take the optimistic route here, and I want to say the positive things about.
Okay, please, yeah.
I'll say a few things. First of all, every generation has the title that, the youth are, they lost the ability to sit and learn and to communicate and talk. And obviously, in numbers, we know that there is truth in today's world. People are lonelier, people are sadder, people are um, more scared. But, and it's a big but here. I have never been more excited of learning in my life than right now. And there, I think one of my favorite services is Notebook LM, the Google service, and the ability to create my own podcast. Really, like I had to learn. I wanted to learn more about EV batteries, right? Like that's a topic I really wanted to learn. And in the beginning, I'm like, hey, chat, tell me more. And that was like, I'm not gonna read it, or I felt that it's like, it's 5 bullets. I'm not
Well, you
gonna.
don't absorb it, right? As well, that's another thing. You just
Yeah,
it
I know,
kind
and,
of.
and that's something I learned better by listening. So I sent them it. So I created my own podcast. And one of the coolest example I saw, not I didn't do it. I think my sister did it. She has an older son, and she asked Chat to describe Napoleon in an audio with a French accent as Napoleon itself.
Is it a
So
good
her,
quality voice though?
so she got like he heard he's really young, but he heard now a story about Napoleon as he was describing it on him about himself. With it's like where in the world, when in the world we could have learned in such an exciting and interactive way, read, and not like, hey, a book. No, some people like to read, some people like to um, hear, some people like to watch. And if we play our cards correctly, and I want to be, I want to, I want to bet on humanity, like I want to say that I want to stay positive. The people who would be curious, the people who would learn how to learn, they are now, it's going to be the best time in the world.
Yeah, they have to learn how to learn, right? Or they have to remember to keep learning.
It's exactly
It's
that.
a scary it's a scary idea, but it's an optimistic one nonetheless. And just as a side topic, I learn more from reading than listening, right?
No, we have,
I
but
don't.
we're a miracle. James, like, how many people, like ask your, don't go to the younger generation. Ask your friends, how many books did they read? Maybe your group of friends are, they can read. Um, but it takes time. How do you watch a movie? Right? Like how do we, we sit at our home and we watch this 45, an hour and a half, 2 hours, amazing thing, but we watch it. And we also look at the news, right? And
Yeah.
we have Batman. You have Batman on the screen, exploding buildings, everything, and you're like,
Yeah, I know. My biggest for myself, and then I promote, like, I would advocate it for other people, is to like limit yourself to one screen, right? Whether that's the phone or the TV or the book, even ebook. But I'm guilty of it as well. I scroll while I'm watching something, then I have to rewind something, and then I do it again. But I don't know. I hope there's like room for long form anything in there in the future. Listen, I want to touch on our last topic now, because I want us to kind of get through some of the things that I have planned on our conversation. Although I could talk about that all day. Although I feel like you and I, there's a tension there between the optimism and the cynicism. So hopefully
and
you
that
win.
there's a sentence I gotta say that when we grew up, we watched the movies, and there's either it's a movie about an apocalypse, of futuristic apocalypse, or it's a futuristic um, heaven. And we grew up with this notion that it would be either, but it's becoming both. A part of the world where is going to live its best life. It's going to be a small percent of the world, but they're going to have the most amount of wealth, the most amount of opportunities, the most amount of anything that history ever gave to a certain percent of humanity, and most of humankind would probably experience some level of I don't want to say darkness, but like the lesser side of fortune. But
No, of
again,
course. I mean, that's also natural with anything, right? I mean, one of my favorite expressions is when the light bulb was invented, a lot of candle makers went out of business, but the world got the light bulb. So,
yeah,
and those candle makers went on to do other things. Some remained candle makers, but many others went and became other things, and the shift changed.
But by the way, but, when every time somebody tells me that the other data, I would give him that when Ford, basically when the car was invented and it replaced horses, you know what happened to the population of horses in the world? Got decreased by 50 to 60%. So,
Wow.
so
How does that work?
because there
I
was
guess they
no
had more
longer
time at home to reproduce.
the
I
horses
guess they had
trying
more
to.
free time. Yeah, that's funny. Um, I want to touch on one last topic before we move on and close the conversation today. I want to touch on ironically geography. So we've been talking abstractly about business online and transcending digital spaces and everything, and the focus on physical versus online. I want to speak about geography. So Tailor Brands, you focus mainly, just to ground you guys, for our readers, for our listeners, you folks mainly are in America, but you also work with the EU. Like, talk me through some of
So
the geographies
we
that you work in.
we mainly work with the US. We allow people outside the US to open a business in the US, but our customers and and everything we're targeted, and our tone of voice and our support system is targeted to Americans opening a business in America. And by the way, it's also the highest if you compare it to any other population or country or geography in the world. Americans, they are the number one nation in opening the business. Last year, 5.4 new businesses were formed. And by the way, that number has been increasing ever since COVID. And it's interesting because prior to COVID, the number were pretty much the same, pretty much stealth for 3.5 million each year. And ever since 2020, when this shift of holy shit, I need to create my own security net, um, we see this number, and now I think last year was the most amount of businesses open in 1 year was 5.4 million.
You wouldn't happen to
Great.
have the age breakdown of those businesses, would you?
I don't have it. The numbers that I'm now saying are the public data. It's public data,
Right,
and
because I'd be curious to know if that was like, as we mentioned, like the majority being first time business creators, but whether or not those were like second career people or first career people. You know, I'd be curious as to what age group those people were.
I have information that I can get from census, the formal data set for that. In Taylor, we do see it's first timers. It's people
Right.
who basically are taking their own path, taking responsibility, and trying to create their own thing.
There's also something to be said about the American entrepreneurship, exceptionalism mentality that exists over there quite uniquely versus other regions. Is that something you are
It's
actively aware of, or is it not? Is your focus kind of just the US anyway?
We're focused on the US, but the reason everyone are focused on the US and all the businesses, whether even if you're a business that started you're a co-founder, you're a founder who started a business for small businesses located and you're located in Europe, you will target the US because the US market is helping people start their business. There's the American dream, and the statistics says that it's not exactly real anymore, but it doesn't really matter because the story is bigger than any data point that I can give you. And the notion that I can be my own boss, and I can create my own path, and I can decide what I want to do exists in the States. And the American dream is alive in that sense. And you can see it based on the amount of people starting their business. And as I said, the reason to start a business may have changed. And if we move from like I'm chasing my dream, my childhood dream, to a necessity that I want to give a livelihood, or maybe it's a business so I could have my own free time, it doesn't really matter. But the concept of starting a business and being responsible to my own destiny is something that Americans are it's extremely rooted in the American culture.
Mm. You could say that the American dream is evolving or shifting alongside this new digital dream, and those are kind of converging, right? Because what you were describing is like the digital opportunities, and they're kind of crossing together now,
And
creating
that's the
this.
magic thing. Because the digital opportunities are bringing back blue collar jobs opportunities. So the circle is, it's if having great quality of life was, oh, I have to or learn computer science. No, I can have a great quality of life, either living not in a big city where everything is more expensive, but I can work with my hands, or I can sell something outside. That's why it's outside the local area I live in. That's why, like, I have no idea how the future would look like from the jobs market. But we have this strong belief in our company, and that's why we are building these tools that people will have their own job, and we want them to focus on their own business, and we want them to focus on the business and not on the bureaucracy of running the business. They can easily ruin the business if done incorrectly.
Well, Tom, I mean, it sounds we've touched on so many different aspects of what you folks do and the industries and changing and landscapes and technologies and ages. Like, this conversation's gone in so many different directions, and it's been so interesting for me to hear all from you and the insights. And also it gave me chance to kind of hear myself and think a lot about some of the things that I think. So thank you for that. I always love coming away from
Well,
conversations like this, like hearing my own thinking ever, let alone my guests' thinking, because it's a sign that our brains are working. Long may it continue, hopefully. Listen, Tom, I want to end as I often do, which is with a quick fire round. So I want to send you a bunch of questions your way. I want instinctive, short answers to the questions I'm about to shoot to you. Let's see. What's one skill that everyone should monetize today?
monetize it's themselves in that way, and we talked about it, right? Like, how do I monetize what I do, what I'm good at, my social skill? Like, I need to know how to convey what I do.
What's one business you'd start tomorrow with $0?
In the passion world, I would go into food. I think that the combination of experiences and good food is something that still will be here even after AI takes everything away from us.
In a nod to Scott Galloway, what should come first, passion or profit?
Mm. I'm gonna say it depends, and if you have zero passion on making a profit, you won't wake up in the morning and do that. So you got to find the balance between the circles, right? Like, what I love, what can bring me money, what I'm good at, what is needed. But it doesn't have to be the thing that you love doing the most in your life.
Is a college degree still worth it?
I don't think so. But learning is a college degree, not probably not, but being curious and learning it's everything.
Yeah. In my mind, those are two completely different things, you know?
But people thought that if I'll have a degree, I'll know more. But the only thing that people learn while they do the degree is how to get a degree.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a whole other conversation for a whole different
Yeah.
episode that we'll probably do another time. I have one last question for you, Tom. What is the best way for people to get in touch with you, follow you, catch up on all the things that Tailor Brands is doing?
So I have my LinkedIn where I try to talk about the Tailor Brands and what I do and what we do as a company. And I have my Instagram, and I do a lot of AI stuff there, and I share my creations and life on Instagram. That's about it.
All right. Wonderful. Thank you. I'll make sure to put those links at the bottom, and I'll make sure to tag you in all of the things that come out once this episode airs. Tom, thank you so much for your insights today. I
Thank
was
you.
super interested to learn all about it and all the things that you folks are up to. And I want to see what the world of building businesses looks like in 2026 and beyond. It's a very exciting time.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Bye.